What's up, everyone? This is TJ Zorich with the Agents of Fandom, joined with a very special guest today. One of the very first big live show guests we had on the Agents of Fandom podcast. You know her as Rogue in X-Men the Animated Series and X-Men 97. And now you also may know her fighting for the rights of Canadians in government. And you now writing a memoir called A Rogue's Tale. Lenore Zann, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So excited to get to talk to you again. And it's been a kind of a cool evolution because the first time we talked, it was before X-Men 97 came out. The
Right.
second time we got a chance to talk, it was as it was airing and I got to see you at the con circuit, bouncing around, promoting the new show. And now the show has come out, working on season 2 and beyond. What's the whole process like been for you, getting to revisit the character and interact with all the fans and old friends at these conventions?
It's been really a dream come true for any actor, I think, to be able to come back to a role that they love, as much as I love Rogue, and be able to give her new life again for a whole new generation of young kids and fans. And while still appealing to the adults who were children when they first fell in love with the X-Men, the animated series. So being able to actually meet the fans this time around by going to Comic Cons and meeting them in person, also connecting with them online, it's kind of overwhelming, really. And most of us that were in the original show just feel so grateful and appreciative that we are back and that we're able to do our jobs and perform these roles again. It's a pinch me, is this really real moment? And then, fast forward to going to the Emmys like a week ago and being able to cosplay my as Rogue at the Emmys was kind of like the cherry on top of the cake. We were nominated for outstanding animated production, and we didn't win, but my gosh, we certainly won the hearts of the fans, and for that, again, we're so grateful.
Couldn't agree more. That's one of the things I've noticed talking to different people involved in the show. I got a chance to talk to Larry Houston once, and he mentioned how when you guys were doing this the first time around, you didn't quite realize how big it was and the effect that it was having on people. And now getting to do this circuit at these conventions, realize that like this show has been so impactful to so many different people. And I want to touch on that more a little bit later. But first things first, the important questions. Has Captain America found his shield yet, or is he still looking?
Listen, I threw that thing so far away, it'll take him months to find.
So, Rogue's journey through X-Men 97, season 1 and beyond, she's was one of the main emotional story beats as part of one of the main emotional story beats, obviously with the death of Gambit and various romance storylines. And so much of the first season dealt with loss and
Yeah.
grief and coming together after really, really bad things have been happening. What was your reaction when you got to read her journey through on the script for the very first time, and how has that impacted you personally?
Well, I've mentioned in a few interviews already that when I got the script for episode 5, for instance, in the first season, I was already grieving because my young 17-year-old niece had passed away from cancer not that long before. And that grieving process was so deep and so painful that when I got the script, I immediately thought, well, I don't have to do my emotional homework for this one. I've already done it. And what I decided to do was to pour all of my grief and my energy into my voice to for that episode, so that fans would actually be able to feel it viscerally and have it hopefully trigger them to feel their own grief that they might have been going through, because a lot of people lost folks that they loved during the pandemic. And as we know, there have been all these terrible mass shootings, there have been these terrible wars. A lot of people are going through heavy duty grief. And so I wanted to touch their souls really with my voice and have them have a cathartic experience and hopefully release it in tears and get some healing. And so it was very therapeutic for me to go through that process myself, to put all of it into my performance. But then also, I hoped that it would help others. And it seems to me from talking to people and seeing what they're saying online that in fact it did do that. So that's kind of, it was a very fulfilling moment for me to be able to do that.
Mission absolutely accomplished. It was such a powerful episode and such a powerful season. That's one of the beautiful parts of these shows is with X-Men through animated series and 97 touching on important issues in the shows while being entertaining and for kids, for adults, for everyone. And it was shows like that, and as well as Spider-Man the animated series, which of course you were part of even for a couple episodes there, that had that kind of impact on me growing up. You know, part of my main moral compass center is built around with great power comes great responsibility from Spider-Man. If you have the power, the privilege, the ability to help people,
Mhm.
it's your duty to help people.
Right.
And you talk a lot in your book about courage, facing your fears, self-doubt, and the hero's journey. How
Mhm.
has Rogue inspired you and affected you throughout your life?
Well, it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Um, I feel like I've put a lot of myself into Rogue as well, and I really related to the fact that she was, on a mission to try and find herself. When she got kicked out of her home by her dad, when he found out she was a mutant, and then she sort of wandered around trying to figure out where did she belong. She also, fell into the clutches of Ms. Marvel. Sorry, not Ms. Marvel, Mystique, who kind of manipulated her and used her quandary, if you will, for her own her own benefit, to hurt others. And Rogue reaches a point where she says, I don't feel comfortable with this anymore. I don't feel comfortable. Like when she steals the powers of Ms. Marvel and takes them upon herself and puts Ms. Marvel in a coma, she doesn't feel right about it. And that's when she goes on another jaunt where she's again looking for herself, like, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Why am I here? And then when Professor X calls out to her psychically and says, Mutant, you're lost, you're lonely, you're hurting, you're in pain. Come to us. We have a place for you where you belong. You belong with us, with the X-Men. We are your family. And that is so powerful. And I think I relate to that. And so many other fans also relate to that because we've had to kind of build families, our communities, our tribe where we feel like we belong and we are accepted for who we are. And so a lot of Rogue's journey is that trying to find self acceptance. Even when she goes to Muir Island to try and get rid of her powers because she wants to be quote unquote normal. She wants to be able to touch people and be intimate and have a family maybe someday. She wants to have a normal life. But she realizes in the course of that episode, The Cure, from the original show, that in fact it's her powers, even though they are painful to her, they bring her pain, they are what makes her who she is. And she needs to embrace that and start to feel comfortable in her own skin. And at the end of that episode, she says, I reckon I am my powers and the good they can do. And I reckon I can live with that. There ain't no cure for who you are. So, that is part of my quest too, is finding myself, embracing who I was, warts and all, and figuring out why I'm here and what my purpose is. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. A lot of young people are also searching. So in that sense, it's been a little bit, I've been giving her stuff. She's been giving me stuff. We together, Rogue and I are kind of, we mesh and we make a whole.
You've been so instrumental in telling Rogue's story throughout the last couple decades now. What inspired you to want to tell your story with a memoir?
Thanks for that question. I left acting for about 12 years, and I talk about it at the end of the book. And I went into politics because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to try and make bills and legislate laws that would affect people in a positive way, make life better for people. Kind of like how Rogue goes with Magneto there to try and create a new world for mutants, a better world. I decided to go into politics, and I won 4 elections in a row, became a member of Parliament, along with Prime Minister Trudeau and his government, and was able to introduce some really good legislation and do some really good things. But at the end of my 12 years, we had the pandemic, and we had a terrible mass shooting in my community where 22 innocent people were killed, all during the pandemic. A lot of people mad that they had to stay home, that they weren't allowed to go out, that they had to wear masks, all of that stuff. And so I ended up not only losing my seat, but also getting death threats. And during that whole time of the death threats and this terrible mass shooting, um, my 17-year-old niece was discovered to have this terminal cancer. So we knew she was going to die, but we didn't know when exactly. And the pain of all of that basically gave me like post traumatic stress disorder. I lost my seat, my niece died, and then I was like, what do I do now? But then I got a call, and it was from Disney saying, would you come back and suit up and be a superhero again and play Rogue? And that was when I realized, wow, you know, this is a story I need to tell, and to tell people never give up. Always hold on, don't give up, because, if you hold on long enough, the miracle will happen.
I love that so much, and I haven't been able to make it all the way through yet, but I have been reading it, and I've really enjoyed it, and I
Thank
obviously don't want to be spoiling anything, but it is very inspirational. If you were to kind of give the elevator pitch,
you.
what would be the 3 most important takeaways of, "Hey, buy Lenore Zann's memoir, A Rogue Tale, because of these reasons?"
Well, I was talking to a few folks yesterday, and they said that they read the book in 24 hours. And they said they couldn't put it down, that it moved them, and that they cried a few times during it with some of my anecdotes. Some of the adventures that I've had around the world were pretty scary too, pretty terrifying. So they said they were on the edge of their seat all the way through, and they didn't know what was going to happen next. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's how I feel when I read the scripts for X-Men now. I can't put them down till I'm done. I pick it up and I just read it right on all through, no matter what time of night it is I start. And that's what I would hope, that people will be excited by it. They'll find out things about me they don't know. Some of the interesting people that I've dated, dates with Keanu Reeves and Andy Gibb, Lou Gossett Jr., the guy that played the hitchhiker in the original Hitchhiker series. These are all interesting, but it's some of the more deep moments too during my life where I've hit a wall and gone, okay, what do I do now? And how do you get out of that? How do you overcome the obstacles to be able to keep hope alive and keep on going and not giving up? And I think that's what I want to leave people with. I want to help people get through those times when they're questioning why they're here and what's going to happen to them, and make them feel like, look, we're all in this together. We all have a purpose. We're all important to the universe to be here. And there is a way through. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to wait and find it. So if I can do that and help people get through it, even with booze and drugs, I talk about hitting a bottom in my own drinking career when I was 36, and being suicidal and having to reach a point where I was I'm either going to die or I have to get sober. And I didn't really care which one it was. But I had an epiphany where I said, I think the braver choice is actually to live and face my fears and face them head on without alcohol or drugs to soften them. And that was another turning point in my life. I was 36, and I had played Marilyn Monroe several times. The first time when I was 19, and I was chosen to play Marilyn Monroe in a big rock opera on the life of Marilyn Monroe. And it's kind of what put me on the map as an actor in Canada. And she died at the age of 36 from an alcohol and drug overdose. So it was so weird that there I found myself at 36 in the same place, but I chose sobriety and I chose to live. And I'm hoping that that can also help anyone else who is struggling too with substance abuse or any kind of other addiction.
Much like X-Men the animated series and X-Men 97, Lenore Zann's memoir, A Rogue's Tale, it's part entertaining but also part important, and that's what makes it such a great read. Before I forget, I know it's available for pre-order right now.
Yes.
When will people be able to buy this in their favorite bookstore?
Hopefully in October in the United States. The book went to the printer. It was shipped to the printer yesterday. So it's being printed now as we speak. It will be available in Canada in 2 weeks' time, like the end of September, and then in America in hopefully October. But you can pre-order it and have it delivered right to your house if you go to indigo.ca, and they will ship it anywhere in North America. It's available on Amazon.ca for people in Canada, and Amazon.com will come on board too later on in October. But yeah, October is the time for Americans, but you can pre-order it through indigo.ca.
If you are a fellow Canadian like us, make sure you check out Lenore Zann's memoir, A Rogue's Tale, here at
Yes.
the end of September. And in the States, make sure you're checking it out in October. Just, it's been, this wasn't on my list, but it's just been in my head. I have to ask now,
Yeah.
is, as a, Canadian
Hmm.
legend in cinema, is Keanu Reeves as nice as they say?
He's lovely. Of course he is. Yes. And I met him when he was quite young. And of course he's Canadian, right? He had done a play called Wolf Boy, and some of my friends had been in that play with him. And we met during a film audition, and we hooked up. We liked each other and spent like a weekend together. So read the book and you'll find out more.
A absolutely perfect tease. One last tease I want to get from you before we get out of here. I know you are very busy. No spoilers, of course. We don't know exactly when things are going to be coming out yet, but where are you in your process for X-Men in terms of line recordings and things like that?
X-Men 97. Well, I was in the studio last week doing episode 209, which is the last episode of the second season. There are 9 episodes in the second season. And as I like to say, Rogue is on her hero's journey, and she is not going to give up until she gets what she wants. So you all better tune in and you'll find out what that is, but probably not for another year.
Lenore Zann and Rogue both on their hero's journey. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to check out Lenore's new memoir, A Rogue's Tale, coming out very soon. Where can the people find you on socials as well as in the upcoming conventions?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Lenore Zann, LenoreZann, and they can find me on Twitter at Zann Lenore, and there's 2 N's in Zann. And yeah, I will be coming to a number of different Comic Cons in the near future. Ocala, Florida this weekend, and then Salt Lake City, hopefully New York, Cincinnati, and Houston. I think those are my final ones this year. And then I've got the book launch. I'll be going over. That's right. I'll be going over to Auckland, New Zealand, and and Australia, Brisbane and Adelaide. So that'll be fun too. And I'm going to take books with me to sign and sell there.
Very awesome. Make sure you follow the Agents of Fandoms on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. And of course, subscribe to the Agents of Fandom on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a blast.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye,
We will.
sugar.